And its occupied territories today, anger and recriminations, but no apologies. One day after 21 Palestinians were killed by Israeli police in Jerusalem, there is almost universal condemnation of the Israeli action. In Jerusalem, ABC's Dean Reynolds.
Israelis prayed and celebrated in peace today at Jerusalem's Western Wall. There was no fear on this hallowed ground. No more Palestinians throwing stones from the Dome of the Rock next door. Because for the first time in centuries, the Muslims of Jerusalem were locked out of their holy sanctuary for morning prayers, reduced to kneeling on the sidewalk and praying to Mecca as best they could. When the 80-year-old Grand Mufti, the chief Muslim cleric here, argued to get into the mosque, he got a face full of tear gas and an urgent trip to the hospital. Yesterday's police action came in for tough criticism from the Israeli press. One Hebrew newspaper called the incident a major foul-up, another a bloodbath.
It doesn't matter what is your political opinion. 21 people were killed. It's bad.
The Israeli military was on increased alert. A new leaflet from the Palestinian underground leadership threatened soldiers with, quote, liquidation. 2 Israeli border policemen were stabbed today by Palestinians, and overnight a Jewish taxi driver was murdered. Police suspect political motives. In Nazareth, Israeli Arab teenagers threw stones and shouted pro-Iraqi slogans today. Israeli leaders promised to investigate Monday's clash, which they blame on Palestinians. And on a visit to a West Bank settlement, Prime Minister Shamir said the PLO had been hoping for a big death toll to return the Palestinian cause to the spotlight.
It was a result of a organized provocation of some Arab terrorists.
Neither Shamir nor any recognized Palestinian leader has yet made a plea for calm or reconciliation. There is hardly a mention of reconciliation anywhere in the Middle East these days. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Jerusalem.
The rest of the world has reacted sharply to the events in Jerusalem. The 12 nations of the European community deplored what they call the repeated violations of international law by Israeli troops against Palestinians. And neither did President Bush pull any punches. Here's ABC's John McWethy.
President Bush very carefully pointed a finger at Israel for what he called the needless deaths in Jerusalem.
Israeli security forces need to be better prepared for such situations, need to act with greater restraint, particularly when it comes to the use of deadly force.
The president said any attempts to link the tragedy in Jerusalem to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait would simply not wash. Saddam Hussein has tried to make that same connection.
And that is not working. Arab world is united, almost united against him. And I don't think if he tries now to use this unfortunate incident to link the two questions, I don't think that will be successful.
But as the president was speaking in Washington, the very thing the U.S. did not want to see was happening in the United Nations Security Council in New York. The Arab nations on the council were, for the first time in months, siding with Iraq, pushing for a strong resolution condemning Israel. Even Egypt, which has sent troops to Saudi Arabia, was clearly linking the issues of the occupation of Kuwait to the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza.
The carnage in Jerusalem proves beyond doubt that the foreign occupation is the source of all ills in the Middle East.
American officials say the Bush administration is willing to vote for a UN resolution that strongly condemns Israel for this one incident. The vote would be aimed at keeping together the Arab world coalition that now opposes Saddam Hussein. But it was the deteriorating situation in Kuwait, not Jerusalem, that drew the sharpest warning from President Bush today, a warning that he would not wait forever for sanctions to force Iraq from Kuwait.
It does sound like your patience is wearing thin on the subject.
It's wearing very thin on that account, yes.
And in that one short answer, the president signaled that America's military option in the Gulf is still very much alive. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
In Baghdad today, a small demonstration against Israel and the U.S. because of the Jerusalem killings. On Iraqi television today, a spokesman for Saddam Hussein said Iraq has a new missile capable of hitting both Israel and U.S. forces in Saudi Arabia. In a country as secretive as Iraq, trying to separate fact from boast is not easy. Part of the job falls to U.S. Army intelligence analysts. ABC's Pierre Salinger has obtained one of their reports. In this case, an assessment of what are supposed to be Iraq's best soldiers.
It was the Republican Guard Forces Command, using 2 armored divisions, 1 mechanized division, and several infantry divisions, which rapidly accomplished the invasion of Kuwait. There wasn't much opposition, but according to the Army intelligence report, one of the key features of the Kuwaiti invasion was that the Republican Guard demonstrated effective use of large special operations forces at night. Night fighting is an area of combat where Iraqi forces had been thought to have only limited capability. The intelligence report also says the Republican Guard was strengthened dramatically in the last 2 years of the Iran-Iraq War and had become a mature, experienced organization of more than 100,000 men. But now the Republican Guard has been withdrawn from Kuwait. This puts them into position to counterattack against any forces that break through the Iraqi front lines. It also removes them from areas of the greatest danger. The intelligence report estimates that defeat of the Republican Guard would be a major blow to the morale of the rest of the Iraqi army and would hasten the disintegration of Iraqi resistance. The report adds, it is not inconceivable that the Iraqi army would respond with the same shock as the French army at Waterloo when Napoleon's old guard retreated. The cry of the Guard retreats spread panic through the French army, which led to its immediate collapse. Pierre Salinger, ABC News, London.
American military authorities in the Persian Gulf have put a temporary ban on all low-altitude Army helicopter flights at night. That follows the crash yesterday of 2 American helicopters into the North Arabian Sea while on a nighttime training flight. The 8 crew members on board the 2 helicopters are thought to have died. When we come back, the backstage battle of a Cambodian dance company in the U.S.